Well, this concerning story coming in now. The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has uncovered at least 70 filling stations across the country selling contaminated diesel that is diluted with illuminating paraffin. For more on this story, we now speak to the department's spokesperson, Robert Maake. Robert, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, this is a very concerning revelation here. Talk to us about the probe and how the department was able to come across this issue.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers and listeners. This is the work that the department has been doing since 2006, 2007 as part of the fuel quality monitoring. It's just that these days now the mixing of diesel and paraffin is becoming a bigger problem because the numbers are increasing. So during the period April to December last year, that's when we found out that there were about 70 incidences of service stations that were found that their diesel was mixed with paraffin.
And where were these filling stations?
They were across the country. We have a breakdown of all the service stations that we found. Like, for example, Limpopo we had 15, Northwest 13, KZN 13, Mpumalanga 9. Those are the top 4 provinces. Then we have 6 Northern Cape. We have 5 in Gauteng and 4 in Western Cape, 4 in Free State and 1 in Eastern Cape.
Are those filling stations still operating?
Yes, remember our processes are this way. We issue a compliance notice, a non-compliance notice to all of them. Some of them will provide remedial action and then they will continue to operate. Some of them will choose to challenge the department, and then we follow the normal processes as outlined in the regulations and in the law.
But what do we understand about the damage that this could be doing to people's vehicles? Can the department assist us with this? Because surely then we need to be able to know where these filling stations are so people have the choice to use them or not.
Yeah, unfortunately, given the POPIA Act and other regulations, the department cannot name and shame the service stations. What we do, we talk to the Retailers Association, we talk to the oil companies, if the service station belongs to a major oil company, to make sure that they rectify the problem. However, what we can say to consumers is that if you go to a service station and you find that the diesel price is too good to be true, you get a discount of more than R1 on the diesel price compared to other service stations around, then you must be suspicious with that kind of diesel.
Yeah, so can we talk a little bit about what the impact on this is on the vehicle for the consumer who is convinced that they're buying the right product for their vehicle and unfortunately may in the long run be cost quite a fortune?
Yes, unfortunately, those are the consequences. If you buy this contaminated diesel at a cheaper price, a few years down the line, your car will stop operating, your engine will just knock, and your car won't operate until you fix the engine, which will cost you more than you saved when you bought that cheaper diesel.
But I get the sense here, Mr. Maake, that there's then very little protection for the consumer here. We're saying that because of the POPIA Act, we're unable to publicly share which filling stations have been found to be mixing paraffin into diesel and continue to operate, but we're unable to share that information with the consumer. So what protection is the department then offering to those very concerned drivers at the moment?
Yeah, you see, it's a bit of a challenge now because the only thing the department can give a warning to consumers and motorists is that if you go to a service station and you find that the price of diesel is too good to be true, then it must be suspicious because then it means it has either been mixed with the paraffin and it's of poor quality. That's the protection we can try to give. However, we are working together with the Retailers Association, the oil companies. We have a compliance forum where we try to make sure that we minimize these kind of incidences. Unfortunately, naming and shaming is something that we thought about, but the lawyers were quick to advise us that according to the POPIA Act, you cannot just disclose such information to the public.
Okay, so the only, I suppose, tool that consumers then have is to look at the price. What then if the price is matched with the regular price of diesel? Very little, again, no protection for the consumer.
Yeah, look here, let me put it this way. The price of diesel, by the way, is not regulated. So the oil companies can give you a discount based on whatever calculation they make and so on with the retailers. They are making an agreement on that. But the bigger problem of mixing is because there are no taxes on paraffin. So if you mix 50% of diesel with paraffin, you can still use it in your vehicles, and you have avoided paying a fuel levy and road accident fund because it's not applicable on petrol. So those guys are able to give a discount of even R2 on diesel. That's where we are saying if it's too good to be true, then it means there could be the possibility of mixing. But you are quite correct. Unfortunately, consumers will like to go towards cheaper products and so on. And unfortunately, it may have an impact like this one in the long term or in the long run. So we are just saying at the moment, the only protection we have as a department is that once we found out the service station has sold a product that is off spec, we then tell them to stop operating, and then they must provide remedial action. Failing which the minister can revoke the license and close the service station.
How many licenses have been revoked? I mean, you've said essentially you found 70 filling stations. You said they're all still operating. How many licenses are at least in the process of being revoked? And have any criminal cases being opened? Is that something that can possibly happen?
Yeah, on this particular one of mixing of paraffin with diesel, we haven't revoked any license yet. However, on other non-compliance matters, like a wholesaler who's also selling to the public, is dual operation. We have a matter that is now currently sitting in court because the minister initiated the process to revoke the license, and that matter is still being considered by the court.
But apologies, Mr. Maake, I need to follow up on this. Where the issue of the mixing of fuels is concerned, why are there no processes to revoke licenses? Is that a matter of a long procedure or a long process and red tape? What exactly is the reasoning for that when we have, 70 filling stations across various parts of the country is a substantial amount, especially when we're unable to tell consumers which ones we're talking about particularly?
Well, let me put it this way. As I said to you in the beginning of my opening remarks, is that all the service stations, 70 of them, were issued with compliance notices. And some of them then provided remedial action, which means they corrected the non-compliance, and then they will continue to operate. Some of them, they will then order the product to be retested, because when you collect the product from the service station, you also leave a sample in a sealed container so that if there's a dispute, it can be retested. That is a process on its own. So they'll take the product to their own lab or different lab from the one that we used. When the results come out, if it's different from the department result, then there's a dispute. Then the matter can be taken forward in that way and so on, because some of these labs are testing for different elements other than the elements that the department are testing for, like your sulfur, your aromatics, your boiling point, your cetane numbers, and so forth. So those are some of the disputes that we get. So all these 70 of them, there are different processes of different stages of processing from the department where we want them to comply. Those who don't want to comply, then we take the process according to the regulations and the law. As I said, it's between April and December last year.
Okay, and so perhaps, and I know that we need to wrap this up. What the plan looks like then for continuous oversight, because we're talking about samples being taken from various filling stations and then those being processed. Samples certainly can be taken, and then the fuel mixing can continue after the sample has been taken. So how does the department ensure that there's continuous oversight into what these 70 filling stations are doing across the country?
Yeah, as I said, this is a program that we do on annual basis. So every year there's a sample of service stations that will visit and take sample and test it. The ones that have already non-compliant, the 70 that we are speaking about. So obviously we have to go back to them until the process is finalized. right? So which means we'll send them notices, they must respond to the department will look at the response and so on until you get to the end point of that, whether the minister end up revoking the license or we end up going to court and so on and so on. But we must follow the processes prescribed in the regulation.
In the past 5 years, Mr. Maake, and you say that this is an annual process and oversight check that the department then does on filling stations. In the past 5 to 10 years, how many licenses have been revoked of filling stations?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers with me here, but as I said, I just gave you an example of one, which is not necessarily a service station, but it's a wholesaler who was practicing dual operation, was having a wholesale license, but at the same time selling fuel to motorists, and which is not allowed by law. So that's the one incident where I know the minister wrote intention to revoke the license, and some of them are still in the process of being finalized. So I can check with the team that is dealing with these issues, and if we need the numbers, we can provide the numbers.
Yeah, the cost to the
without
consumer.
the names of the service station.
Yeah, I can imagine the consumer really concerned about the cost to their budget moving forward when this could mean that they need to have an overhaul of their engine in a few years' time. But let's leave it there. I wish we could talk some more, but that's all the time we have. Robert Maake there is the spokesperson for the department. Yes, you may go ahead.
Yeah, there's actually a bigger cost. There's actually a bigger cost to the economy, because if these guys are not paying fuel levy and tax to National Treasury, then it means Treasury cannot collect that revenue.
Yeah, that as well. Robert Maake, of course, spokesperson for the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, speaking to us there. And he's, of course, revealed that at least 70 filling stations across the country have been selling contaminated diesel that is diluted with illuminating paraffin. Those service stations are still operating. Unfortunately, as a result of the Poppy Act, of the Poppy Act rather, the department unable to tell us which ones of those filling stations are still have been exposed.